you appear to be creating a parallel civil service. 2020 is not too far away from today. Are we seeing a comeback? Would you say that HIPIC truly served any purpose?
The debt overhang on the economy of our country was such that the country couldn't bear it.
We've moved more people out of poverty and hunger since 1992 than any other era in the period of Ghana.
Under my watch, the Ghanaian economy picked up.
A legion of youth is being trained in terms of security.
Aging stage of your life is a time you have to plan for.
Death is a universal need.
Persons who would take their lives by suicide may, prior to the act, have given us a lot of information.
I am sufficiently intelligent to know that.
Yes, there's corruption in the Parliament of Ghana.
They make me feel bad.
We have not departed from our core principles.
I should be able to count how many millionaires I've been able to create.
There was only one incubator, and by the time we set up and put her child in, the child was dead.
They run away because they don't want to get married at that early age.
Moment tonight, here, we don't just talk, we push the talkers to walk the talk.
Moment.
Maybe GBC deserves the TV license.
Mr. President, I thought this was your main issue why you came here.
This is my big bro.
From Mondays to Thursdays on GBC News Channel at 8:15 p.m. I'm exceedingly excited to welcome you to the show tonight. My name is Abdul Mumin, and tonight we throw the spotlight on creating employment opportunities, and that's because ActionAid, one of the NGOs that's been operating in the country for a long time now, has been able to open up some space for especially young people to get some employment opportunities, and they themselves are beginning to open up opportunities for other young people to be gainfully employed as well. And we thought it important to engage in this conversation, especially because in the era of COVID-19, so many people have lost their jobs, so many people have almost given up. But should we raise our hands up in the air in despair? Well, we can learn from the ActionAid example and what they're doing for other young people. And then we will also have some of those young people with us in the studio. Indeed, they are already with us in the studio. I'll be introducing them shortly to tell us about their experiences. And perhaps you, a young person out there watching us, could learn from their experiences and perhaps also become gainfully employed rather than wait for the government or some other person to employ you. Basically, that's the conversation we will be engaging in tonight. And I have with me in the studio Terence Tena. Terence is the project manager at ActionAid. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation here. And even before we start, very good job. I'm excited already at the prospects of this conversation. And then we also have with us in the studio, seated in the middle, is a young man, Augustine Nsia. Augustine is a beneficiary of the project we're about to discuss, and we will be asking Augustine later on what he is into and how he is using the opportunities that he has had to impact on others and their lives. Of course, also with us is Matilda Asari. Matilda is also a beneficiary, now gainfully employed. She's an entrepreneur, but what exactly is she doing and how is she using that to impact others? We'll find out from her shortly. Thank you so very much, gentleman and lady, for coming to our studio today. And I can see you all came in the ActionAid branded t-shirts. But let's begin our conversation from the point of view of how this all started. So, for example, like I said in my introduction, Terence, and I'm referring to you at this point in time, when COVID hit, many people lost their jobs. Indeed, yesterday we had a conversation around COVID-19, and we had the HR director for the Bank of Ghana right here with us, and we shared a lot of thoughts on how it affected and impacted the lives of ordinary workers. Workers were laid off, especially when you look at the education sector. Private schools laid off a lot of teachers and a lot of peripheral workers, like people who cook in schools and so on. They all lost their jobs. In the private sector, when you go to several manufacturing companies, they also, because the importation and export industry wasn't moving any longer, productivity went down, people lost their jobs. Yet, in the midst of all that, you came up with an idea to create jobs. Tell me where and how the idea started from.
Okay, so it started from Action's everyday work in the communities where we engage our constituents on daily basis. So through our work, we don't only implement interventions, but through the implementation of our interventions, we end up identifying some gaps and needs which beneficiaries and constituents may need to complement what we already do there and also to improve their standard of living. So in the process of this everyday work, the gap was identified, which was youth and unemployment and youth traveling from rural communities to urban centers to look for decent jobs, which sometimes they don't even find. And if they do find them, sometimes because of lack of skills, they are underpaid or are easily laid off, like in the situation of COVID, because they don't bring on board some specific skills or don't bring on board some special skills that makes it very difficult to do away, not to do away with them. So they are easily laid off in times of redundancy. Their roles easily become redundant and they are laid off. Therefore, the need to engage most of these youths in income generating activities which will end up reducing the poverty levels in their community, because if these youths are gainfully employed and have a decent source of income, they are able to support themselves, support their families, and also increase the level of economic activities within their community. And gradually you end up realizing that the level of income circulating within the community begin to improve. I mean, let's take a typical example of a community in Kenya, in Asutifi North, known as Kenya's number 3. There are a lot of people who live there. They use mobile phones on daily basis. For some time now, mobile phone, even a class 4 boy wants to own a mobile phone, but there is no mobile phone repairer. Not a single one. So if my phone has a problem, I have to travel miles away to get my phone fixed. Meanwhile, there are a lot of youths in this community who don't have a job and are not employed, but this is a venture. So through our everyday implementation of activities in this community, this gap was identified, increasing youth unemployment, youth in communities doing nothing and wanting to leave the shores of their community to seek for what they mostly don't find, which end up making them more vulnerable than they are. Then the need for this project. So
you see, I'm interested in the example that you just gave. That so Asutifi South, is it?
No,
North. You have a lot of people using mobile phones, and yet you can't find mobile phone repairers
in some of the
communities, and therefore you have identified that to be a gap that can be filled by somebody just getting trained to repair mobile phones.
And that's not the only gap. There are many other gaps.
Exactly, but I'm just using that as a case study. So go to Galamsey sites, for example, when government said, well, people should leave Galamsey and that it was providing alternative livelihoods, the Galamseyers refused to take advantage of those alternatives because, according to them, they were not earning as much from the alternatives as much as they would have been earning if they were still engaged in the illegal activity of Galamsey mining and so on. You extend that argument. The mobile phone repair, the person has seen his friend from Accra visit home, and he drives a car or perhaps has some new shirts on. Mobile phone cannot give him that kind of quick money, and so it's not exciting to engage in. So I'll come back to you later, and you tell us how you're able to retune the minds of many young people who, when thinking of making a livelihood, are not thinking of a daily a fair step-by-step way of getting up there, but you know, quick money, and therefore are very selective when it comes to choosing what they want to do for a living. But before then, Augustine, you tell me, so before you encountered Action Aid and this project that now has given you a livelihood, what were you up to?
I was farming. And when they came...
What's your background to start with in terms of your education?
In case of my education, I have completed senior high school.
Right.
And there is no job for me to do. So I went back to the village so that I can do some small farming.
Which senior high school did you complete?
Kuko Magrick Senior High School.
And you said there was no job for you. What kind of job were you looking for after senior high school? After senior high school, usually people want to move on to the next step. What, you were looking for a job right after that?
Yes.
What kind of job were you looking for?
I write so many applications to banks. I was offering business. So purposely, I wanted to work with a bank.
But with a senior high school certificate, you cannot work with a bank.
We have savings and loans.
Yes.
And microfinances. So I wrote many application letters to the microfinances and savings and loans in order to offer susu corrector or
no, I get what you mean. So you wanted some basic work to do with a finance company. Okay.
Yes.
But at that time, why were you not? Was there any particular reason why you were not looking forward to going to school immediately, but looking for a job after SS? You tell me about it.
Yes, I was having a problem. My mother and my father is not there, so in back to SS, I do pay my fees, everything on me. I don't have any old, let me say, brother or sister who can help me to educate or to further my education. So I have to find something to do so that I can get something to further my education. That's why I have to find something without furthering that education.
So in your particular case, and I guess it's the case of many others, the difficulty was that you didn't have any financial support even whilst you were in senior high school. And therefore when you completed, moving to the tertiary to further your education was a problem, because then you had to rely on applying for a job. But the banks and the savings and loans companies denied you the kind of job you were looking for. And then you did what next?
One of financial institutions picked me whilst I was working with them, and the manager stole the money and ran away. So the bank collapsed. So I have to come back home so that to find different job to do.
So this was in Accra or where else?
I have a Kenya, I say.
You said you had to go back home. Where were you before you went back to where you call home?
I was at Kenya number 2.
Okay.
So I have to go back to Kenya number 3 to stay there so that I can get something small in the farm.
So you started farming?
Farming, yes.
How did you acquire your farmland, and what kind of farming were you doing? Tell me all about the things involved in farming that you were doing.
When I got there, I just went to one old woman and said all my problems to her. And he told me because of my situation, he will give me a piece of land for me to cultivate some food so that I can get something from it to further my education. And I took all my papers shown to her so that for her to see that I can further my education because of financial problem. So then he gave me a land for me to cultivate that product so that I can get money to further my education.
And before I bring Matilda into the picture, so how beneficial was farming to you? I'm just trying to establish what background you came from before you encountered this project, which was introduced by Action Aid.
It was difficult for me because since I came on this earth, in terms of farming, I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about it because of my mother and my father. I don't know them. I don't have any person who I can follow him or her to farm, so that I can get a little bit idea on farming. So I just depend myself on the old woman whom I was talking about, who gave me the land. So he gave me some small advice for me to venture into that farming system.
All right.
Yes.
Wonderful. I'll return to you, and when I do, I'd like you to tell us how you encountered ActionAid. But Matilda, you too, tell me your story. You are one of the beneficiaries today. You are gainfully employed. You call yourself an entrepreneur. But where were you before you encountered this opportunity given to you by ActionAid?
Okay. I was in the house doing nothing. After SHS, I was in the house doing nothing. So I started working with them when I was in class 6. They were taking us to some places. We were doing some drawings and other things here. So after the SHS, I was in the house doing nothing. And I heard them, they said they want to teach us something so that we can use our own hands to do something, to reduce unemployment. So I said, okay, if that one is better, then I'll join them so that I can get something small to do.
See, the impression I'm getting here, and I've been sitting on this platform talking to many people from different backgrounds, the impression I have had over the years is that there are a lot of young people who believe that, like, after SS, if perhaps you, due to some financial constraints or due to the fact that you did not pass 1 or 2 papers, that necessarily whatever it takes to get to the next stage in education, go to tertiary, if you fail to do that, then you have failed in life. That has always been the impression. But here you are saying, well, both of you, after SS, for different reasons, you couldn't step up to the next stage, but you were looking for an opportunity to be able to create a space for yourselves where you could operate. Have I summarized your lives very well for you? Okay. Yes. So if that's the case, now then tell me exactly what, I mean, before you encountered this opportunity and before, I mean, whilst you were even in school at the SS level, tell me very frankly, what were you hoping to become in future?
When I was in the SHS, I was hoping to be a teacher, to go to the teacher training college. And because of ActionAid and some support of my parents, I'm now at the College of Education. Yeah.
Oh, you're now, yes. Exactly. But yes. So, wow. Then I'll come to that and find out how you're combining that with your entrepreneurship and so on. Let me come back to you, Terence. So, tell me, so you did all of this, you created these opportunities, but in certain specific communities. Ghana is huge. Why those communities? And I get they were in the Esutif North, Mion, Sanerego, and Talensi in the northern, upper east, and the Bonot regions. Why?
Okay, so Moment, like I said, in our work we keep interacting with our stakeholders and also gathering information from the ground and really identifying need that hinders welfare and well-being of people, and also the ability of people to access their rights. So in the line of job, mostly sometimes we identify some areas, some let me say gaps that are peculiar to some areas, not to say other parts of the countries don't have those issues, but you get prevalence within some locations. And if we work within that area, ActionAid has operational areas. So we assess these risks we have identified within our operational area. And if it exists, then it becomes a need. And even if it exists outside our operational area, but it's hindering the life of people, we do get in. But if it is within our operational area, then it is highly prioritized to become a need for the organization to try to seek support and funding. And through such interventions, Medical Foundation came on board to support this particular project, which is providing employment opportunity for youth. To zoom down to this particular districts and communities, we work with the various stakeholders within the district. If I say district and region, if I say stakeholders, we do work with the RCC, the District Assembly, the Ministry of Education, Health, Ghana Enterprise Agency, depending on the gap that is identified. So based on that, communities are selected, districts are selected, and communities are also selected in the process. So we don't just do mapping, but it's based on a need, a prevalence of a situation, and also sometimes a gap that have been identified through our work.
But Terence, if you are talking about prevalence and gaps, I don't see any other community in Ghana that can have an unemployment prevalence more than Accra and Kumasi. I can't see anywhere where there are more people who are looking for jobs, and you find those people outside of Accra and Kumasi.
You are right, Mumin.
Yes.
People in Accra and Kumasi come from somewhere. They don't come from Accra and Kumasi. So majority of the people you see in Accra and Kumasi looking for jobs come from some communities in Ghana. So instead of tackling the problem from Accra and keeping them in Accra, for Accra to remain as choked as it is, why don't you solve the problem from home? So that they are able to settle within their own communities, boost the economic activities within those communities, to make it attractive so that other youths within those communities don't also jump out. Because if you make Accra too attractive, everybody will keep zooming into Accra, leaving the communities, and you keep creating more problem in Accra than it is. So where people live and come from, make that place attractive, economically viable, and also increase the level of youth involvement in activities, not only income generating, but also in decision making. Then they feel belong, they feel welcome, they feel part of the community. Then they live within there, and before you realize, activities within the community begin to grow, attract other people to come on board. Then we can curb some of these issues of rural-urban migration, and also the slums that keep happening, being created in the cities we live in. And therefore, our interest of going back to the communities we work in, because our youth keep moving out of the community.
Interesting. You see, I haven't come to the point where we'll ask about what specific areas that you have created these employment opportunities, but because you came up with an example of the mobile phone, I guess that these are not white-collar jobs. Many of the youth are interested in white-collar jobs. Many want to sit on TV and wear a suit like Movement is doing currently. Those are not the opportunities you are giving out to the youth out there. How are you able to change their mindsets that, look, you do not need a white-collar job to be successful?
Okay. So, Mumin, we did not select skills for this youth. The project was seeking to support out-of-school youth, not youth in school, because education is important and everybody must have an education. But the project was targeting youth who are already out of school but do not have any form of livelihood between the ages of 18 and 35. These are people who would want to have something to do but do not have anything to do. So the project was focusing more on vulnerable youths who don't have skills in any area. If you are in school, the project do not engage you, except you are out of school, you have a hope of furthering your education, but you don't have any source of funding, like Matilda. So in that case, if she doesn't get anything to do, she will lose her education, and she wouldn't have anything.
We're showing some pictures right now of some of the skills training programs that. Yes, so we'll continue with the discussion. You continue whilst we allow our viewers also to have a view of and a feel of what you have been doing behind the scenes for many of these young persons. Yes.
So like Matilda, if she doesn't get anything to do to generate income, then she doesn't also have the opportunity of going back to school. So she loses both, no education, no source of livelihood. Then she even becomes more vulnerable and have more chances of moving out of her community to already choke cities like Accra, and others to look for jobs which she may or may not find. So for those reasons, some communities were engaged. In the process of the engagement, how did we convince these youth? It took a lot of discussions, because there are some traditional jobs we all know in Ghana. Like you say, everybody who do business must work in the bank. Everybody who do arts must become a journalist or a lawyer. Everybody who do science must become an engineer or a doctor. It is true. You can't veer off those lines. So it has become a norm and a tradition. But science goes beyond doctor and engineering. It's business goes beyond being a banker.
True.
So we had to come together with our stakeholders, hold various sessions with these stakeholders, with these beneficiaries. And in the process of the selection was thrown up to the community. If you are interested and you are within the age bracket, write your name. Yes, some beneficiaries were excited to write their name. Others were not so much willing. They will tell you they have to convince some of their friends to join the project. But as they join, you have to make it a gradual process. Engage them not once, not twice, to see the risk involved in the other ventures and quick money avenues they seek to go into, and let them know the sustainability and quality life that comes with what you have to offer, but in the long term. So you create both pictures and help them to analyze. So we did various skills analysis with them. I was having a conversation and we're laughing this afternoon that, to my surprise, he comes from Kenya as a number 3, and we had 18 ladies registering for the program. Out of these 18, 12 of them took sewing in a small community of about 300 to 500. 300 people. If everybody, 12 of you are going to sew, and already there are seamstresses in this community, who sews for who and who pays who? So we had to hold various sessions, analyze various skills with these beneficiaries for them to get to know that, yes, there are some skills. We are not saying they are not good, but before you go into any skill area, you have to be sure that this skill is economically viable within your area. You can easily get to market. You don't need any outrageous capital to go into this venture, so that from time to time you don't need a revamp from anybody, but you can revamp yourself should you run into crisis, like in the midst of COVID. If you are like him who is a tiler, you only need your tile cutting machine. The tile is not yours, the sun is not yours, the cement is not yours, the space you tile is not yours. You only need your machine, and you keep making some level of income on daily basis depending on the quality of your work. So these discussions led to where we are today. It didn't just happen in a day.
Well, I wanted to reserve that question for the next round, but since you have brought it up, so you've talked about he being a tiler, so automatically then that tells me that part of the training focus on tiling. What else?
We have tiling. Beneficiaries were trained in 12 artisanal areas, which cut across, we have cut across skills that cut across the 3 regions we worked in, which is Northern region, Bron and Hafo, then Bron and Hafo, but now Ahafo, and then we have Upper East. So you have soap making aside soap, we have detergent making, which looks beyond liquid soap and bar soap into carbolic soap and the various herbal soaps that people use now, bleaches for cleaning and washing and all forms of soap. We have basketry, the Bulgar basket, which is pertaining to only the Upper East area. Beneficiaries were trained in that basketry. You have catering, pastries in particular, which cuts across all the 3 regions. You have tiling cutting across all the 3 regions. You have leather works being implemented in Northern region and then Upper East.
Right.
Then you have skill like auto mechanics being implemented in Bro and Hafo and then Northern region.
Right.
Then you have weaving, smock cloth weaving, which is to Northern region and then Upper East. Then you have smock sewing, which is for Northern region only. And we have beekeeping, which is for Northern region and also the Nyong enclave only. Then we have, I think
it's too many for you to mention. Yes, so, but I have a fair idea.
Yes.
Basically, so is there anything on welding?
No,
okay.
No
I'm asking that because, but it doesn't sway from the conversation. But it just came to mind because in 2018 I had the opportunity of visiting Scotland. Scotland is known for oil and gas issues and all that. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that those in administration at most of the oil and gas companies in Scotland were persons who had PhDs, had master's degrees and so on. And then you had the welders on the other hand who were just persons who went to school to study how to do this handwork, so to speak. But on the scale, they were taking more salary, more pay than those who had gone to school to acquire PhDs and master's degrees to manage them. They were taking more money. And so that's coming to you now again, Augustine. So you obviously are now a tiler. Yes. You are into tiling. Yes. Do you feel proud when you are perhaps doing your work as a tiler and then you see one of your old schoolmates going to the office or going to school to teach, going to engage in some other activity other than that which you are doing? Do you feel threatened?
Yes.
But you feel threatened? You feel inferior to them?
Yes.
Do you feel bad?
No.
Okay. So yes, that I should have put it. So do you feel bad when you see? Do you think they're better than you?
No.
Tell me how you feel about the job you do now.
The job I'm doing now is good for me, and I'm happy with it. Let me put it in that way, because of the amount that I can earn from it. I see that I'm even above those who are my colleague who just passed through that education or seeking for government work.
You're earning a lot more money now.
Yes.
Do you have people you work with? Do you pay anybody else, or you do this work all by yourself?
I have only one son whom I was working with.
One apprentice.
Yes. Tell me how you then got to know about this opportunity which was being presented, and how you were able to follow them up to where you are now.
They came to our village. As I said, I went there for the farming. And I heard them making that announcement. Even that day I wasn't there. One of my friends told me, and I told him, oh, if I was there, I should have registered my name. And he told me they will come back, so I have to wait. And I take the person's number, I called him, and he gave me the date whom they will be there to register for new people. And I waited for them, so that when they came there, now I have to register my name to be part of their project.
Matilda, tell me your story.
Yeah, after this, no, In school, I sometimes do the beads, the necklace, the anklets, and the other things. So I sell them. The little income that come, I use.
So you are into bead making?
Yes.
And who trained you? How were you trained? How did you get to know that there was an opportunity for you to be trained in bead making?
I got to know that there's opportunity because when they came, they explained everything to us, that when you do this or you did that, this thing will help you to get an income faster than this one. Yes. And this one, we don't have some in our community who are doing the bead making. So if you want to buy something, you need to travel away to go and buy it. So I learned that if I learn that one, it will help.
You see, and I'm still referring to this generation of young people look down on certain professions, and I can see that you're wearing some of the beautiful beads there.
And I have my purse here.
Okay. So this was made by you?
Yeah, made
yourself.
by me. I have a soap purse where I can wear it everywhere.
Okay. Oh, that's
yes,
nice.
Made by me.
I'll send you an invoice so you pay us advertising your platinum show. But getting back to the more serious issues. So you were in school, or you are still in school with some persons, and then they come around and see you doing this.
They feel proud. They sometimes feel proud because
really?
they said, hey, you have a handwork, so why are you still coming to school? And I said, oh, I can do this and do this again, so that at the end of the day, you get something from here, get something from here. So that you not blame the government that my salary is not coming, so I don't get anything to do. I don't have money. Blaming the government all the time. But when you have this thing doing, the salary is not coming, you can earn something from this one. When it comes, you can use that one to for another thing.
Let me think from the mind of a typical social media contemporary young person.
Yes.
We are looking for money that can buy us a Range Rover. We are looking for money that can at least rent a house at East Legon.
Yes.
And you are telling us to go into bead making. How much at all can you make from bead making?
This bead making, you can earn something big, because when you do this small bag, and if I tell you the price of this bag, it will surprise you. Yes.
It's expensive?
Yes, it's expensive because it's not easy to do this one. But when you do it, you earn something big from it.
So again, Ghanaians' attitude towards made in Ghana products is also another topic that we could discuss. But
so I want to say that.
Yes.
Is every Ghanaian youth hopes for a better future, and that is what drives some of the youth into these areas you talk about. If you are to engage the youth who go into the galamsey and want this luxurious monies you are talking about, it's not to say they don't know the risks involved in the areas they want to venture in. They know the risks. But what else do? I either sit and have nothing or venture into something crazy. Then if I'm to venture into something to get there, let me go for the most craziest one. If I'm to take a risk, then let me take the biggest risk. So that if I hit a jackpot. But if there are opportunities where youths are assured of something to kind of engage in, then the ideas and the thoughts of getting themselves into this high-risk area, not to say it wouldn't arise, it will arise, but on the lower scale, which will be minimal and manageable, because you and I can attest that 20, 30 years from now, it wasn't this way. So the lack of assurance, increasing youth unemployment from the graduate level to the SS leaver to the person who has no level of education at all, put some level of insecurity in youth, which would push youth to want to venture into some of these crazy ventures. Go to the Galamsey side, they see their colleagues die on a daily basis, but they are still there. Why? Because if I don't do this, what do I feed from? Maybe I have a family who depends on me. What do they eat? So even though I know the risks, but body and soul must be kept together. So I will still stay in there. So engaging these youths, some of the analysis, we did a needs assessment with them to really appreciate their need, what they seek to achieve appreciate the caliber of beneficiaries we are working with and what the gaps are before the interventions are implemented. So if you engage most of them, we didn't engage them in long scales, because most of them, like Asari sitting here is saying he was trying to farm, he wasn't getting much from the farming, it's just what he can feed on. The aspirations of an education was not there, and that wasn't going to be a sustainable means for Asari. So if I'm going to engage Asari in a skill training, Augustine in a skill training, that will take Augustine 2-3 years.
Yes.
He will get fatigued on the way and he will drop out. So it has to be something that can meet Augustine's need immediately, within a short time, where he can make sustainable income and would love what he does. So no skill was predicted from the beginning of the project. Beneficiaries, through a skills analysis, chose skills, and it ended up forming around the 12 skill area, which is a skill that is needed within the locality or has a wider market, like the burger baskets, for instance. The market goes beyond Upper East. And gradually, the made in Ghana goods are picking up. Though sometimes we don't prioritize it or we are not proud of it. But gradually we are getting there. Friday people want to wear African wear. We want to match it with something Ghanaian. You see some of this basket. Now we are putting creativity inside the design. So you see some of them and the combination, the color combination, the design. Now you have burger basket that have a zip. I can put my things and still feel safe. I can walk in Cantamanto. Nobody will put his hand and pick my phone. So adding some of this beauty to it makes it loving to have. And these are the skills we add to these beneficiaries to ensure that, yes, you are in the market, it's competitive. You are now entering, but you will still have something to take home every month. That's not, the skills training is not the only training they receive. Even before the skills training, they were taken through leadership, group dynamic, and networking training, just to sight their minds and prepare them for what is ahead. Because they will not be trained as individuals, they will be trained in groups. Once you meet in a group, the group goes through various transitions. And before you realize, it gets to a point in the conflicting state where they are hitting their heads against each other. But if they are trained and they are aware of some of these things, it's not news.
Okay. I have a lot of interesting comments coming on Facebook and also on WhatsApp. I'll be reading some of them to you later. But I just noticed again that you say the project is targeted at 531 young people. Huge number, very impressive. If government provides jobs for 531 people, that will be news, big news for the day. But my question then is 362 females as against 169 males. Simple question, why?
Okay. So the reason behind the why is during our work in these communities, the need was identified that most of the young ladies in most of the communities we work in end up dropping out of school due to teenage pregnancy. They end up becoming single mothers. They are unable to continue their education, but do not have any source of livelihood to depend on. Most of these communities are farming communities where in our system, land belongs to the family heads who are mostly male, except for the half area that you have some women owning land. So at the end of the day, these young ladies are not even able to access land to farm than to farm on family lands, which the food end up belong to the family. She can't fetch some to the market to sell unless the landlord say, fetch this to the market to go and sell. And most of them are still living with their parents. So at the end of the day, you end up realizing that they don't have an education, they have no source of income, and they have children to take care of, increasing their level of vulnerability. So sometimes most of them would have to leave their children with parents to run down to Kumasi or Accra to become head porters with the hope of getting an income to be able to support herself, support her baby and her mother at home. So for this reason, females were really prioritized in this area. That is not to say the young men in these communities are not also vulnerable. But then if you pick a young guy like us, Augustine, who is single, no child tagging along, and maybe Matilda, who will have a baby depending on her, then you end up realizing that the level of vulnerability varies. Therefore, they need to prioritize Matilda, and if there is a slot, you can take on Augustine, and that's why you have, you still have 169 men finding their way.
Okay, let me go on my WhatsApp platform and get a few of the comments that are coming in. Good evening, Moomin. Thanks for having this program. I'd like to know from the Action Aid lady, well, her name is Terence, if opportunities are still available for some of us who do not live in the areas that you earlier mentioned.
For now, I would say no. The project, the first phase of the project is what you see, and it is for beneficiaries within these particular areas. We hope for funding to maybe engage other youths in other areas, but that depends on the funding streams that come in. But it's for that reason we also came onto this platform, to be able to engage and also let people know it's possible within some of these environments, so that even if other entities who want to, and the government could take up some of this initiative, it will go a wider range to help a lot of youth within different angles. Like Asari Nkwa, like Augustine Nkwa. Augustine, I don't know why I keep calling you Asari today. Like Augustine and colleagues who are gradually engaging one apprentice or the other. Some have 2, some have 3, some have 4. The hope is gradually the base will increase, and maybe beneficiaries like him would also come on board with time.
Good evening, Moomin. Great show as usual. In a world where we are no longer competing just with persons locally, but with the international community, because even in Africa, we have opened the Africa Free Trade Area. What it means is that whatever we produce will have to compete with things that are imported from China, South Africa, and other parts of the world. Ask the Action Aid official who these trainers are and what the training requirements were. Did they meet international standards?
Who these trainers are?
Who were those who trained and people like Augustine and Matilda?
International requirements. Yes, we worked, an assessment was done. We engaged MVTI at the various regional levels, and also some...
sorry, I need to just add, Joseph Al-Hassan, you sent that message. Thank you very much. I just wanted to acknowledge the senders as well. Sorry.
All right. So we worked with MVTI at the regional level, and that was not the first time Action Aid is engaging in livelihood activities and working with livelihood training institution. So in the case of Asutifi, where Augustine and Co were trained, they were trained by an NVTI training institution, the Yamfo Vocational Training Institute. In Northern Region, beneficiaries in Myong and Sanergu were trained by the Double Part Training Technical Institute. And in Upper East, beneficiaries were trained by the MVTI institution, Namonteng Vocational Institute. These institutions produced manuals. Before contracts were signed with them, an assessment was done based on the skill area our beneficiaries were trained in, to identify institutions that can train to meet the need of our beneficiaries. Because, mind you, I said most of them are mothers. You can't move them to a training institution and house them in a boarding environment for some number of days. So there are criteria, and some of these institutions met this criteria, submitted a proposal with training manuals, which was reviewed by a team, including a team of experts. Every region has an MVTI coordinator, the divisional coordinator. Some of these divisional coordinators were part of this process to assess their own institution and even more to make recommendations. If you come to Upper East, for instance, we're working with then NBSSI, now Ghana Enterprise Agency.
Yes.
We were working with the regional office. They even did the skills analysis for beneficiaries to think through various businesses and look at the prospects, what it has to offer, and the income. So they did this training, and this training were tailored to meet market needs. So I should say it meets a standard that should help them to be able to market their products and be able to sell for people to be interested in what they produce. But his standard to international is
what you don't understand?
No, I do understand what he means by international, but these are small scale businesses. With time, they will grow. They have received business management skills training and all of that, and the hope is for them to grow, to be able to compete favorably. But for now, at the small scale, their interest is the local market. And because of that, they are going through mentorship. They are being attached to businesses that are already a bit up there for them to learn the dynamics of the game. Why should I add some touch? What makes it relevant? So they would get there, but not immediately.
I'll reserve the rest of the questions for you, Terence. So have you been given any certificate to indicate that you have had training? So when people are coming to engage you, you can tell them you're a professional now. Do you have any?
Yes, we have. They gave us certificates that we have trained in that job.
Yes.
Yes.
And how has that given you opportunities to get more jobs to do? As in, people have invited you to tell their houses and office spaces for them. Has that happened?
Yes, because of that certificate attached to it, they see me as a professional.
But let's talk about the bead making. So you also have a certificate.
Yes.
And what? So let me ask a rude question. And so what?
The certificate can help you anywhere that you go. It helps you to prove that you have learned it and you have graduated from it and you have your certificate. So if anybody wants you to do something for the person, somebody can doubt, he don't know how, she don't know how to do it, but you can show your certificate so that everybody will know that yes, you learned it and you have graduated.
And I also want to add that they had Proficiency 1 and the MBTI system, you have various grades of proficiencies.
Right.
So they've had the basic, like I said, and the hope is for them to start generating something and they can build on. And this is why we train them with institutions that are within their locality so that they can easily walk in. I did Proficiency 1 with you. I still want to be working in my community. Can I enroll in Proficiency 2? Can I do Proficiency 3? Can I take that to do an HND in the Polytechnic or something?
All right.
So that is the aspiration. And also for them to be able to register their businesses, which is a discussion we are about starting with the various assemblies, for them to be able to register their businesses and be known for what they do within their areas. They should be able to have some of this professional certificate.
Okay. We have just 4 minutes indeed. Terence, I would like you to be very brief about this so we can have all the questions answered. Not all, those that I can read. Let me just take one more from WhatsApp and then I'll return to the Facebook messages as well. This one from Fred Kobna Echampon says, good job by the Action Aid. I am very impressed about what they are doing to reduce the rate of unemployment in the country. But beyond just giving these people training, is Action Aid also considering creating that market for them? Because it will be useless for people to have training and no market to sell whatever they have been trained to produce.
Yes, we do engage in activities that will help them to create markets. Not only from Action Aid, but to help them market their goods. So they, like I said earlier, not only taking through the livelihood skills training, but they have received training in business management and also how to market their goods. They are receiving training in financial literacy, so that they are able, and also business plan, so that they are able to produce their own business plans and are able to focus into the future to say, this is where I am going.
Right.
And also we try to use our platform to advertise, to kind of showcase them and the work they do, and also engage other avenues and bring them together to help them assess certain opportunities. So recently there was a youth forum to mark the International Youth Day, we have beneficiaries who came to do exhibition at the forum to get their products exhibited, and they really got a good market from that area.
Great. Okay, so on Facebook, a lot of people who have commented, I believe, know you personally, Terence, and they are just happy that they are seeing you. And Jamil Tanimu says, good job, Terence, very insightful. Miftahu Tamalisa Bonjida says, community development through entrepreneurship and building a wholesome environment for youth and children leadership development are part of the future plan of God's calling, but our politicians keep deregulating them. Senior Samuel Sabuli says, great discussion, Terence. Keep up with the good work. Sebastian Jessison says, Sister Terence, you are an academic. And he uses a very big word which I don't understand. Kojo Asempa Furniture Works, so wonderful. It's a wonderful discussion. Kojo Asempa Furniture Works from Edum Kumasi. Dear sister, we are watching you live from home. Sebastian, okay. Sebastian has sent like 3. Watching you live, Vic says Diana Titabu, and then Isaiah Tiena. Okay, I get it now. Tiena, watching you live from home. Grandma. Okay, I mean, so those are your messages. But just before we go, let me come to you now. I'll start with you, Augustine. So, just in 30 seconds, tell me, for persons your age who may have dropped out from senior high school and about to give up, what message would you give them? Given the fact that now you are smiling all the way to the bank almost every time.
It's good for them to find something which they can use their hands to do, than rather depending government to employ them to get something to do or to get job. They should contact their mothers or father so that they can send them to learn something that can earn them something easily. Yes.
Matilda?
Yeah. Okay, I will tell them that they shouldn't give up, because it's not only going to school to be a professional or whatever, so that you can be a rich person. No. You can use your own hand to do something, to earn something, so that at the end of the day, you call yourself a rich person, not going to school only.
So are you rich?
No, no,
you're on your way.
I'm on my way.
Terence, wrap it all up for us. What will be your final message on the show tonight? Okay. Just a minute.
So my final message would be to say there is a lot of opportunities out there for youth, and also there is a lot the youth can do. So let's not give up as youth, and also let's not the world give up on us as youth. As youth crime and everything keep increasing around the world, and we are gradually becoming the talk of everybody. But as much as we have a lot, this is to say that we have a lot of energy. Let's let the world help us put this energy to good use, to ensure that this energy don't go into social vices, and also to ensure that this energy goes a long way to help in building our country, help in building our lives and our communities, and also reducing youth unemployment, and also the poverty levels in the communities we work in, which ActionAid is working so hard to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Are you going to create opportunities for journalists so people like us can also get something extra? That was just by the way. I know that would confuse
create opportunities for youth so that they can also get something to add on to it.
Thank you so much. We've been talking about creating employment opportunities. ActionAid has shown the way, and we've had 2 young people here who otherwise would have also been out there looking for jobs, but now gainfully employed because they've made themselves available to be trained in tiling, bead making, and other professions out there that we should not look down on, because these professions actually present us with huge opportunities for money making and for building very, very solid futures for ourselves. I've been speaking with Terence Tiena. She is the project manager of ActionAid. Matilda Asari to the extreme left there is a project beneficiary. Augustine Nsia is another project beneficiary. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so grateful you accepted our invitation here. We'll see you again some other time when you have built empires of business.